Okay, so ever feel like that moment when you're choosing between butter or extra butter
Right.
at the movie theater?
Yeah.
Like that's the biggest decision you'll make all day.
Right.
Get ready, because we're about to uncover a plot twist. This deep dive, we're diving into the world of Toronto's cinema scene, and it's way more intense than you might think. We've got articles here, Cineplex, York Cinemas, this newcomer, Mosaic.
Yeah.
It's juicy.
What gets me is like how much it's like those classic business stories you hear, but with like a whole cinematic twist, right?
Oh, yeah.
We're talking monopolies, we're talking cultural influence, the little guy, those independent theaters trying to survive.
And find an audience.
Oh, yeah, and parking. Don't forget parking.
Right. Let's be real. Parking in Toronto is basically its own movie genre, like a suspense thriller.
Always finding that cliffhanger ending. Will they get a spot?
Exactly. Okay, but before we spiral into a black hole of parking anxiety, let's rewind to like the mid-2000s. One of these articles mentions York Cinemas starting to make a name for themselves, especially as a distributor for South Indian films.
This is a prime example of knowing your audience, right? York Cinemas, they tapped into this underserved market fans of Tamil and Malayalam cinema. And from about, 2007 to 2013-ish, they were the go-to for these fames. Built a loyal following just by filling that gap.
Smart. So while they're off building their little empire, what's the big guy Cineplex doing? Just chilling.
Oh, Cineplex, they were busy doing what big companies do, expanding. Think of it like, a blockbuster sequel. But instead of more explosions, they added more theaters.
Or locations, more.
And exactly. They were already huge, but they kept acquiring those smaller chains, right? Prime locations, solidifying that whole we're the place to watch movies image.
Classic monopoly move. Anyone even try to challenge them?
Well, there was Landmark Cinemas, tried to make a go of it at Square One in Mississauga.
Oh, right. Yeah.
But they couldn't quite make it work. Cineplex had that brand recognition, the marketing budget. They were like the Kleenex of movie theaters,
Everyone knows the name. So we've got Cineplex with their popcorn crown, York Cinemas catering to their dedicated fan base.
Yeah.
But then 2013 rolls around and things get interesting. York Cinemas, they decide they want a different kind of deal with Cineplex. A better profit-sharing deal, as one article put it. Basically, a bigger piece of the box office pie for the films they were distributing.
And that's where the drama really starts. When York Cinemas pulled their films from Cineplex, it left a void. Their audience, those South Indian cinema fans, they suddenly had fewer choices.
Creating this whole, vacuum of demand.
Exactly.
Okay, so the tension is building. But then things start to get a little strange, right? We're talking about those weird incidents at screenings around 2023, even a gunshot, if I remember correctly, during a screening of that film Jailer. And a lot of these, they were happening at, you guessed it, Cineplex and Landmark theaters.
Things get a little murky here. There were whispers, rumors that maybe York Cinemas was resorting to some, shall we say, unconventional tactics.
A little sabotage.
Maybe to, shake things up a bit, undermine the competition. Nothing was ever proven, but the timing was...
Suspicious.
Let's go with suspicious.
Very sus. It's like a whole subplot we didn't see coming. And then what's really weird is that by mid-2024, these incidents just vanish. Poof! And York Cinema releases go on without a hitch.
Yeah, the timing on that is interesting, to say the least. And this was on top of all the existing speculation about York Cinemas and whether they were involved in disrupting those big VJ films like Sari and Pooley.
Right.
There were even rumors of threats against theaters showing Ponniyin Selvan.
It's like a real-life movie thriller unfolding.
Right.
Okay, but we need to pump the brakes on the mystery for a sec. There's another name in these articles that keeps popping up. Bijou.
Ah, yes, Bijou. He seems to have been a major behind-the-scenes player.
Right, like the puppet master.
Well, maybe not a puppet master, but he was definitely instrumental in guiding York Cinemas when they moved into the world of Malayalam cinema. He had the connections, the industry know-how.
The guy who knew a guy.
Exactly.
Okay, so York Cinemas brings Bijou on board. Things are cooking, but then it's like they hit a wall.
Yeah, the turning point seems to be all the controversy surrounding that film, Malay Kotai Valaban. It's a little unclear exactly what went down, but whatever happened with that film, the fallout, the buzz, all of it, it caused some serious waves.
And that's when York Cinemas starts pulling away from Bijou.
It seems so.
What happened?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Like, was trust broken, partnerships strained, whatever went down, it sent shockwaves through the industry.
Yeah.
And everyone's left wondering what happens now. And just when you thought, okay, this is already more drama than a daytime soap, a new player enters the scene.
Oh, this is getting good. Tell me more.
Cue the epic movie score, right? Because here comes Mosaic Cinemas, ready to, like, shake things up with a bold vision and a very 21st century strategy.
Okay, I'm hooked. But before we get into their grand entrance, let's rewind for a sec. Who is Mosaic Cinemas? And what makes them think they can go up against a giant like Cineplex?
Remember how we were talking about Landmark Cinemas trying to make a go of it at Square One?
Yeah, they closed down, right?
Right. Well, Mosaic swooped in and took over one of their old locations up in Kitchener-Waterloo. But, and this is the interesting part, they're not going the traditional route for funding this whole thing.
What do you mean?
They're turning to the people, crowdfunding the whole venture. They're using this platform called Front Funder.
Front Fund. So it's like what, Kickstarter for businesses? That's a pretty cool concept, actually. Gives people a chance to, like, put their money where their mouth is if they really want to see something succeed. How does it work?
It's exactly that. It's a platform where these startups, they can raise capital directly from investors, anyone really who believe in what they're doing.
Yeah.
And they've got a pretty impressive track record of backing some really successful companies, too. Mosaic's basically betting that there are people out there, a lot of them, who are, they're passionate about movies. They want a different kind of experience.
They're kind of over the whole Cineplex way of doing things.
Bingo. While Cineplex has been comfortable, let's say, in their top spot.
Right.
There's been this, like, growing murmur of, not good enough anymore. Complaints about the seats, the projection systems, the sound. I even saw one review where someone complained about, well, let's just say they had an encounter with some unwelcome critters.
Ew. Okay, so things aren't as shiny and glamorous over at Cineplex as they'd like us to believe.
Yeah.
So Mosaic sees this opening, this gap in the market, and they're swooping in, promising a premium experience.
Exactly. They're going all in on that top-tier experience, 12 screens, all laser projection. 6 of them have 4K projection and Dolby Atmos sound.
Fancy.
Right. It's like they're building the ultimate entertainment palace, especially for, like, a generation that's used to streaming, high-quality content at home.
They've got high standards. They don't want to go to a theater and feel like they're stepping back in time.
Exactly.
It's interesting, though, because it sounds like they're not just focusing on just South Asian films. The articles mentioned they're planning to show those big Hollywood blockbusters, too, right?
Right. They get it. But to be successful, they can't just cater to one niche market, even a dedicated one. They got to bring in the masses, right? But by offering that mix of Hollywood and international cinema, especially with an emphasis on high-quality South Asian films, they're tapping into this diverse market that often gets overlooked by those bigger chains.
It's smart. Be everything to everyone, but in a way that actually makes sense, Strategic. It's kind of brilliant, actually. But it's not like they're the only ones trying to shake up the Toronto cinema scene. We got to talk about Noel and Tiff, right? They've been pushing for more diverse films for years.
Oh, absolutely. They deserve huge credit for fighting that good fight, Championing diversity in film, often facing an uphill battle, let me tell you.
Yeah, they don't back down from a challenge. Remember what happened with that whole Pontiac and Sylvan release?
Oh, man.
There were actual threats trying to shut down those screenings. But TIFF went ahead and showed it.
Yeah.
At their downtown location, the Bill Box.
They held their ground, which is commendable given the atmosphere around the whole thing.
And then there was Noel dealing with all that craziness around the release of Pimla Nayak. What a mess that was.
And it just goes to show, this world, it's not all red carpets and award ceremonies. It can be cutthroat. Big personalities, a lot at stake. And anytime someone tries to do something different, disrupt the status quo.
Let's just say, not everyone's happy about it.
Exactly. But despite all that, both Noel and Tiff, they've remained committed to bringing that wider range of films to Toronto.
Which is a win for everyone who loves movies, right?
Yeah.
More choices, different stories, different perspectives.
Yeah.
Who wouldn't want that? This whole situation does make you wonder, though. Is there really room for everyone in this cinematic showdown? Can a newcomer like Mosaic actually make a dent in that Cineplex armor? Or are they, I don't know, destined to fade to black?
That, my friend, is the million-dollar question.
Right.
And unfortunately, we don't have a crystal ball handy. But here's what we do know. Cineplex has had it pretty easy for a while, being the top dog and all.
Right.
And sometimes when you're at the top, you get a little too comfortable.
Complacent.
Exactly. And we see the results, right? Those complaints about the quality going down, not really keeping up with the time.
Like that old saying, if you're not moving forward, you're falling behind.
100%. But Now you've got Mosaic stepping in, shaking things up a bit. If they actually deliver on what they're promising, the fancy tech, the diverse film,
Right, the whole premium experience.
and Cineplex, they might actually have to, step up their game.
Which is good for everyone.
Oh, absolutely. For the moviegoers in the GTA, I mean, imagine having multiple options for a really great night out at the movies, no matter what you want to watch.
Sign me up.
Right, that's the dream.
It is. And this whole front fund thing, it really puts the power in the hands of the people, doesn't it? If enough people want Mosaic to succeed,
They just might pull it off.
it's a cool example of how, like, regular people can shake up an industry, right?
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to those smaller businesses
Sure.
trying to break through.
Exactly. Mosaic's success. It might come down to whether people are craving something different, something more than what they're getting now.
So if I'm someone in Toronto who just wants to watch a good movie, what does all this mean for me?
It means the next time you're at the concession stand, staring down at that bucket of popcorn.
Trying to decide butter or extra butter.
Remember this conversation?
Oh, I will.
There's a whole lot more happening behind the scenes at your local multiplex than meets the eye.
It's like a whole battle for your attention, right? For your money, even your loyalty to a specific popcorn topping.
Yeah.
Who knew going to the movies could be so intense?
It's a wild world out there. And remember, Mosaic's fate, maybe even the future of cinema in Toronto, could depend on how this whole thing unfolds.
That's true.
Keep an eye on that front funder campaign, folks. This isn't just about movies anymore. It's about who gets to tell the stories, who decides what we watch, and what kind of experiences we have access to in the future.
Wow, talk about a cliffhanger.
Huh.
I don't know about you, but I'm suddenly way more invested in the future of movie theaters.
Right.
And I might never look at a bucket of popcorn the same way again.
And the next time you hear someone say, it's just a movie, tell them you listen to this deep dive, and you know better.
100%. This has been way more exciting than that last superhero movie I tried to watch. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the surprisingly dramatic world of Toronto cinema. Until next time, remember, the drama doesn't just happen on screen.